Hey all, Tom Moran here from Thomas the Big Spiders. Well, as everybody knows, one of my favorite genera of tarantulas is Poecilotheria. I absolutely love my pokies, and today we get to rehouse a pokey, and this is one that I thought I had raised up years ago, and after going through my notes, realized I had not, so I picked one up a couple years ago. This is Poecilotheria miranda, or the Bengal Ornamental, or Bengal Spotted Ornamental, I believe, are the common names. Anyway, we're about to put this one into what I thought would be the adult home, but now that I'm looking at this tarantula, she is quite big, a little bit bigger than I was expecting, because I honestly haven't seen her out in the open all that much. But the enclosure we're going to put her in will work for the time being, but just know that you could put her in something bigger if you want to. I just want to make it clear that anytime I'm doing a rehousing and I put them in an enclosure, the enclosure is working for me at the moment, but remember there are other things out there that you can use. So, for example, this one I'm going to be using a tarantula cribs enclosure. I'm going to show off another one that you could use just a little cheaper, or you could use a sterilite bin and have just as good of an enclosure for the spider. You may not be able to see it as well. It may not be as pretty, but again, it all comes down to whether or not the enclosure is appropriate for the animal. In this case, it is. So will this one probably get a larger enclosure down the road if she hits 7 inches? Absolutely. But for the time being, this one's going to work, and she's looking pretty. She's actually sitting right out in the open right now. I can see her from here, and she's looking great in it. So all's good. So anyway, enough of me talking. Let's take a look at the care, and let's do a rehousing for Poecilotheria miranda. All right, so we haven't done one of these in a while, although I've rehoused a couple of these off camera because sometimes it's just easier and a little more stress-free to just focus on the spider. But we're going to be doing Poecilotheria miranda, or the Bengal Ornamental, one of the Poecilotheria from India. I believe this is the first one I've ever raised up, and it's funny because years ago I thought I had one, and then going back through all my videos and notes, I never had one. So I was able to pick one up a couple years ago. This one's been growing fairly quickly overall, but I do want to point out that with my feeding schedules, I've backed off a great deal from when I first started doing this stuff, you know, what was it, several years ago. I think when I started doing the YouTube videos, I was feeding most of my slings twice a week, my juveniles at least once a week, my adults once a week. Now I've backed off a little bit, and I have found with Poecilotheria that can be rather fast growing. I've had pokies go from about an inch to 4.5 inches in a year easily. And I found, although the growth rate is fantastic and fun, it does tend to shorten their lifespan a little bit. So when you hear folks that have Poecilotheria species that are pushing 10 and 12, usually they took their time growing up. So that's one of the things I'm trying to be more cognizant of as I spend more time in the hobby, is the fact that there's no need to overfeed. I do tend to pump the food to the babies to get them out of that sling stage as quickly as possible. Then when they hit the juvenile stage, I slow things down. So I'm usually feeding my juveniles a decent sized meal every 2 weeks or so, and adults I feed once a month. So that's something I've changed since starting this. But anyway, I just want to point out what we're going to be putting them into here. Now, I put these two up here because I'm trying to show people, when I do enclosures and setups, I try a bunch of different enclosures. I have found enclosures like the sterilite boxes I use. I have a couple Exoteras still in use, or many Exoteras still in use. They're a little more expensive. I have the barbarous growth ones. I am constantly searching for new things so that I can show off to people what the options are. So whenever I show off an enclosure, I'm not saying go out and buy this enclosure. This is exactly what I use, so you should use it. It's here is an alternative. So today, just to make sure people understand, this here is one of the tarantula cribs, one beautiful enclosure, a little fly on it, that I believe it's the switch, because you can take the top off, put the other top on. It opens from the front and from the top, which I absolutely love, especially when rehousing potentially fast arboreals, because it gives you a little more of an opportunity, or more access points for which to negotiate the spider and maneuver the spider so it goes where you want. So it has the front door that slides out. It has this top one that lifts up here. And what I love about these is they have the little privacy thing in the background, which I used to do with cardboard back in the day, but these have magnets. They stick right on. So very, very nice. These are obviously pricey. This is kind of like the, what would you say, BMW of the tarantula enclosures. You're going to pay more, but you're going to get some features that other things won't have. What I have here is one of the Exotera Nano Talls. These are obviously cheaper. If you play your cards right, I wouldn't buy them off Amazon anymore, because I think so many of them broke. They've jacked up the price. They break in shipping. So what ends up happening, they end up getting a lot of returns. So the price goes up. I've found these, I think I bought a couple of these at a show we went to a few years ago, and they were like $35 or something, or 40 bucks. They're usually fairly inexpensive overall. But again, they open from the front. They open from the top. I do replace the top, the wire mesh. I had these lids that I got, and I just didn't feel like there was enough airflow. There's a vent there, an event there, but I started drilling plastic. I did a terrible job, which is why this one hasn't been used yet. It's kind of sitting on the shelf. But just to show people some alternatives, or you can stick them in a sterilite container. I have my juvenile in this one here. You can easily stick them in a larger sterilite. For years, I kept my pokies in the big sterilite bins that were like about 10 inches wide by, I think, what were they, like 14 inches by 11 and a half inches high. And they did perfectly fine. They adapted well. So there's a lot out there, and you can go even bigger. So what we are going to do now is try to get the P. miranda out from here into this one here. So we're going to go ahead and get this out of the way so I can have some room to move.
Your P. metallica is one of those, right?
Yes, actually, you're right. We did the P. metallica one recently.
It's right there. Or no?
No, that's a different one.
Oh, sorry.
No, my P. metallica is actually, we just did one in one of these, I think. Because everybody loves the P. metallica, so if you want people to check out your videos, just Rehouse P. metallica is honestly where it comes down. I've done a couple of them off screen, though, because it's just, when I do these things off screen, it takes literally like 5 minutes max. And then with all the talking and everything, I have to try to talk and then stop and get the spider in. So what we have here, now just to explain what I put as slings for piece, and this goes for basically any Poecilometallica. I'm creating my own species and genus now. Any Poecilotheria species, keep in mind they are going to do some digging. This freaks people out. So what I usually like to set mine up, if they're really small slings, you set them up in a large dram vial. If they are larger slings, a 24-ounce deli cup works great. And what you do is you set them up with a couple inches of substrate on the bottom so they can do the burrowing, and you do the cork bark up top. So you kind of set it up like an arboreal that may want to do some burrowing. More often than not, they hide behind the cork bark, they pull up some of that dirt, they web up and create what's called dirt curtains, which are like privacy curtains for the spider. And as we can see with this one here, this one didn't do a lot of webbing. And you can see this one I cheated, it looks like, because there is the old, yep, I cheated on this one. So that I was trying to find footage of me housing this one. I did it right out of that there. That was her vial that she came in, and I thought she was a little bit bigger. She ended up being a little small for this, but they are very active hunters. So if they end up in an enclosure that's a little bit large for them, as long as they can't escape through any holes or anything, they will usually actively hunt down prey. There's some spiders, if you give them too much room, they're not going to find the prey. These guys are pretty good with it. But one thing to note with slings, if you grow up a sling, if you give it a 24-ounce deli cup to grow into, you can probably keep the sling in there until it's about, I would say, 1.5 inches to 1.75 inches, which is 4 to 4.5 centimeters. And at that point, you could easily put it into something this size. So you could skip the juvenile stage. I don't generally skip the juvenile stage as far as rehousings. I like to let them get a little bit of size on, put them in something here. So this here is one of the food storage containers. I think it's V-Top Mart is the one that makes them. I get them off Amazon. They're very cheap. I absolutely love them for arboreal juveniles and fossorial juveniles. So a fossorial species, I can put the dirt up here, it digs up, has room to do what it needs to do. Obviously, in this setup here, this is a arboreal enclosure. So we have the spider with some dirt to dig in, and we have the cork bark up here leaned against the side. These measure about 7.5 by 7.5 by 9 inches, or 19 by 19 by 23 centimeters. Again, the big knock against these plastic containers is the fact they are milky. It's hard to see the spider in there, but they work great. You can put as much ventilation as you want. And as you can see, I kind of went ham with the ventilation on this one. You could also put ventilation holes down here. I generally don't do it with this type of enclosure. Although I put a hole in here. I must have had something. Look at that. Why is there a random hole down here? You could put a row of holes down here as well, both sides. What you want is good cross ventilation. Now, in terms of moisture, just a heads up, slings I always keep moist. Juveniles, I usually keep part of it moist, but it can dry up a little bit in between. Adults are very, very adaptive to different environments. I know some people that keep them just bone dry with a water dish. I like to periodically go in, moisten a bunch of the substrate down, let it dry out a little bit, moisten the substrate down again. So it has periods where it dries out a little bit, but not for long. The adults seem very adaptable. Juveniles seem very adaptable, but I would not keep a sling dry by any stretch of the imagination. So let's do the fun part now. And by fun, I'm going to put that in quotes. Little tip, if you're using one of these enclosures, this basically tells me which way this goes, because there's nothing worse when you go to put the tops back on or the things back on and the magnets are the wrong way and they pop right off. So what we're going to try to do, I'm going to be really, really careful with this. And I know there's going to be people out there, because it happens, that think this means I'm scared of the spider. I'm not scared of the spider. The idea, and what I've always done through Tom's Big Spiders, is try to show people how to safely get these guys from point A to point B with minimal issue. Back in the day, I did some videos demonstrating how you could easily use cardboard. And if I will put a link to that maybe at the end of this video, you can use cardboard in a way that you can make sure there is no place for the spider to go but where you want it to go, which keeps the spider safe, keeps the keeper safe. The trick is we don't want the spider ending up someplace that we don't want it. We don't want it out and about. Anytime you have a situation like that, it increases the chance of negative contact, meaning the spider stands its ground, the spider runs and hides. I have so much stuff here that if the spider were to get behind some of these enclosures, we'd be in trouble trying to find it, or the spider ends up on the keeper or up their sleeve. And I've heard things like that happening before. So we're going to try to avoid that at all costs. I'm going to take the water dish out. Actually, as a fairly, I might be able to just wash out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to tip this back so hopefully Billy can get a shot of the spider. Hopefully what it'll do is flatten out and try to hide. I love how I always be always super quiet because I'm thinking like my voice is going to disturb it. And she's actually pretty good size. I've been trying to, that's the only problem with the Sterilite. They're very, very milky. And I've been trying to get a good shot of her and I haven't been able to, but you know, I'll get a flashlight in there, which she's not going to like, but here we go. There was this one had some purple on her femurs, but she just molted again. As you can see, the abdomen's still a little small. So I fed her a couple times, but now we're going to get her into something larger so that she can hopefully.
Oh, that's perfect.
Oh, there we go. Oh, that's pretty. Not showing the purple though. She's got purple on her femurs. Or maybe the other
you can see it a little bit on the left. Oh
yeah, I can see it. Yep. Right in there. I was going to point to it on the screen. Nobody's going to be able to see that. All right, so let's get her out. They don't particularly like light. This one's kind of exposed right now. I'm trying to decide if it might be easier to. I was going to do the old take the cork bark out and put her on there, but I'm not convinced she's going to stay. Or maybe she will.
Oh, gosh. What a nice girl. Maybe.
All right, so what we're going to do, can you,
what do we do?
No, I got it. We can get this on so she comes back up. And then we can just slowly, carefully, I don't want this to drop quickly. Oh, yeah. All right. So there she is in there. Let's see if we can get some. And again, we tried it. This is usually where I get my shots of spiders. We're going to try to get some good shots of her, but it may not be in the cards because I don't want to disturb her any more than I have to. But oh, she's a beauty. I love pokies. It's just, for me, it's like there's tarantulas and then there's pokies or like the elite. Oh, I don't know if any of that purple's coming out. Holy crud.
She's so beautiful.
Absolutely stunning. I'm going to go and click. No. Oh, there's a lot of purple. All right, here we go. I'm going to open the top a little bit. Nope, she's going to go underneath.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if it's coming out, but again, with my rehousings, I want to make this very clear. The idea is to make them as safe as possible. If I don't get shots, so be it. We're not putting myself in jeopardy. We're not putting Billy in jeopardy. And more importantly, we're not putting the spider in jeopardy. We don't want a situation where the spider ends up lost, ends up on one of us. I've seen cases where people get a little crazy with the spider showing them off. And next thing you know, the spider's up in the air and on the ground. We don't ever want anything like that to happen. Hopefully in a minute, I'll do a little more talking and then I'll try to move this cork bark to see if we can get her up and about. I kind of like that though. I might even leave that in there. I don't normally, once I set these guys up, I normally don't go through the front. I found, so a couple things I want to point out about Poecilotheria while we kind of let this girl settle in a bit. Number one, the temperament. If you've read that they're super defensive, I have not found any of them to be super defensive. The two species that usually get a rep for being a little more defensive when compared to other Poecilotheria are Rufilata and Ornata, but I've had very good luck with every single one I've kept. They are usually very shy. As you saw with that spider there, they have natural camouflage, so their first reaction, usually when disturbed, is to use that natural camouflage, flatten out, and try to hide. So that's exactly what you saw when I picked her up from this and put her in here. She was Like, please just leave me alone. Please just leave me alone. Notice her first reaction wasn't to throw up a threat posture, to jump on my face, to suck out my soul, whatever people are saying about them. It is to hide. Now, if they get disturbed enough and they feel cornered, can they throw up a threat posture? Yes. Mostly, usually what they will do is bolt. And a lot of times when you have an enclosure, they don't bolt up, they bolt around. So that's why when working with pokies, I generally like the top opening enclosures because it's easier for me to keep the spider contained. So what I'm hoping will happen, and I'm going to I'm not going to call myself out. I ran out of the smaller cork bark rounds. If you use a cork bark round with a pokey, A, rehousings can be very, very easy because usually you can lift the cork bark out, put it in the new enclosure. B, they like that solitude, that privacy. But what I've done here is I have half of a cork bark round and put the flashlight so you can see it. And what I did is behind it, fill this spot here with New Zealand sphagnum moss. So what she will most likely do is end up behind here. She's going to take this moss. She's going to take some of this dirt. She's going to dig a little bit, and she's going to create those dirt curtains, those privacy curtains around here. And I'm guessing she will probably hunt out of here, which makes them very easy to feed because you drop a roach on, they come out and grab it. Now, as far as the rest of the fixings, this is a mix of my own substrate. It's about, we're going to call it 45, 45, and 10, although it's probably a little more like 47, 47, and 6. Is that math right? Last time I did this, my math was so wrong, it was ridiculous. But it's peat, rehydrated cocoa fiber. I had the peat moss dry. I put it in with the rehydrated cocoa fiber, which is moist, so it kind of takes some of the excess moisture out. And then I put in some vermiculite just for moisture. And this is moist now only because I had the moist stuff already set up. What I will probably do is let this dry out just a hair. We let the top levels dry up, and then occasionally I'll make it rain by using this as I shine a flashlight in my eyes. This here. So we pour it in, make it rain, moisten down part of the substrate. She will have a water dish I'll be putting in here. I put in some leaf litter, and we've got a plastic plant. A lot of times what ends up happening with the plants is as she comes out, she may make a little opening over here, and she'll use the plant as coverage and kind of web and dirt curtain around that. Now, as far as the size of this enclosure, this is an 8x8x12, which is, oh crud, I'll have to flash up what the thing is. I know 12 is what, 30 centimeters high. I can't remember what 8 is. Darn it. 19 centimeters, 20
I have
centimeters?
no idea.
I'm starting to learn them. Anyway, 8x8x12. Could you go bigger with an adult? Yes, this is a species that gets to be 6 to 7 inches or so, or 15 to 18 centimeters. So a 6-inch one would do just fine in here. The problem is going to be it is going to poop all over the entire thing. I've had this with every single arboreal I have. They love to just all over. It's dripping down the sides, and they look rather unsightly very quickly. I actually have a C versicolor I'm going to rehouse, not because she needs more room, but because she has covered her enclosure with so much poop, I can't even clean it off right now with her in it. So we're just going to give her a brand new one, let her poop on that. But that's something to keep in mind. Could you go larger with a 12x12 by 18, the like Exoterra mini talls? Absolutely. I would just encourage you to make sure there are extra cork bark, like lots of cork bark rounds for her to pick where she's going to stay, some extra plants, some cover, because they will be more likely to venture out more. I know my Pivetata is in one of those, and I see her every morning. I come up, she's sitting right out in the open. So what she will probably do, again, take refuge back here, web up, and then usually with my pokies, when I come up in the morning or sometimes when I come up in the afternoon, even when the lights are on, you'll find them sitting right on the surface of the cork bark like a true arboreal. As far as temperatures are concerned, my temperatures up here in the wintertime are right around 74 to 75. In the summertime, it's usually 80, usually right around 80 to 85 degrees. They usually do fine with that. Keep in mind, the warmer the temperatures, the faster the metabolisms, the faster they will grow. So that's something to keep in mind. Have I missed anything? It's been a while since I've done one of these, but I feel like I screwed up because we haven't had the stop yet for me swearing or anything. I thought for sure this was going to be a train wreck. I'm on a roll. So this is my P. Miranda. This is what she'll be in for the time being. Now, if she hits, here's my game plan. I wanted her in something pretty because I wanted to see her out more. If she hits 6, 7 inches or so, and she looks a little small for this, she probably will. By that point, she'll probably have pooed all over the front of this. We'll get her into something bigger. But for now, this will do it. So I just want to make that clear because a lot of times I'll put them in something like this and somebody will go, well, I was just going to put mine in a much larger enclosure. Go for it. Just make sure you furnish it in a way that the spider's going to be confident enough to come out. If you give it a 12x12 by 18 and you put one little piece of cork bark in, nothing else, you're not going to see your spider all that much because they're not going to feel comfortable coming out and exploring. So there we go. Poecilotheria, Miranda. I believe this one is a female, although I'll have to look at the pattern on the abdomen afterwards. I think you can figure it out from that. I thought I saw, these guys are usually fairly easy to ventrally sex once they hit a certain age, because females are very obvious, but pretty sure it's a female. We'll double check. And then obviously I'll keep folks updated. I'm probably going to do an update video. Should we try to get some, I don't know if I want to mess with her. What we may do is after we end up filming, so I can use both hands and not have to worry about talking, I'll see if I can't move that and get some more shots for it. So you guys may be looking at prettier shots right now because I might have done this. If you're just watching the cage with the spider underneath here, it means we couldn't get better shots. But there we go. P. Miranda, Bengal Ornamental. All right, so a lot of times after I do a rehousing, if the spider is kind of out in the open or sitting out in the open, I will try to feed it. I've noticed that most of my spiders will eat after a rehousing. This is why it kind of cracks me up. Sometimes people will come on and say, wow, that spider's so stressed out. Well, it may be slightly stressed out, but it's amazing how fast they can turn on that switch when there's food involved. And as you'll see here, we got a fun little clip. I'm going to include it. This is actually after I took my microphone off and Billy and I were just kind of playing around up here, but I think it's worth a look-see.
It's almost like a purple gray color. Just looked like it fell down.
And I'm out.
It was just like dopey.
Okay. Got it.
Oh, heck yeah.
Back up a little bit. It's jumping range. Oh, man.
She is so pretty. Those purples.
I gotta get a picture of it. Oh no.
Ooh.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and put that there. So obviously the first attempt was a total failure. That little roach popped around the back of it. Good for her. She ran away. Second one, I was trying not to get too close with the tongs because, again, if you're feeding, I don't tong feed. One of the reasons is they can shoot up the tongs. A lot of people don't realize that. Another one is I was using metal tongs there, and they can actually injure their fangs on the metal tongs if they grab them. So what I was trying to do is just toss the roach somewhere nearby so they can get it. And on the third try, we got it. She ate. She did get the other roach later on, and then she was right out in the open eating, which was fantastic. And she is a beautiful spider. I love anything with purples, and this one was definitely showing off some of the purples. Billy did an amazing job getting those colors to pop, and I was glad we got some good footage of her after the fact. So that will do it for this one. As always, if you liked it enough to subscribe, very much appreciate. Click the little circle up in there. I'm going to put that rehousing video where I use cardboard down here just in case anybody's interested. I'll probably put my genus review for Poecilotheria up here. If you take the time to comment, I'll take the time to respond. Just know it can take me a little while because I tend to get busy, but I will get back to you. Guys, as always, stay safe. We'll catch you all next time.